this Fae Queen, and she decides it's time to marry off her son, who is a Fae Prince, and these society girls, I guess, and the Cruel Prince, the Selection, and Bridgerton, and these society girls all have to compete for his hand in marriage through these kind of trials, but the trials are actually very dark, and it's that twisted Fae cruelty. I don't know, I really like the Fae in this book. They're portrayed in a very dark way, and I like that. And I liked Ivy as a character. She's quite spunky, maybe a slight bit of Mary Sue energy, but not too bad. And I really liked the other girls and Ivy's relationship with the other girls. So it was really kind of, it was a romance and there was a love triangle and blah blah blah. But also the female friendships I loved, and the kind of support and those dynamics were really interesting as well. I like that a lot. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the setting and the pacing of this book. I will say, one of my critiques is the setting did feel like the author's indulgence rather than a realistic setting. It was not giving really Regency England. It was like a Timu Regency England, I would say. She definitely could have done a bit more on that side of things, but I think the side of things with the Fae and creating that atmosphere was done really well. So I didn't mind it too much. But I wouldn't say the strength of this book is its historical aspects. I felt like half the time it would forget it was meant to be set in that era and read really modern. But yeah, I loved the romance love triangle situation. I think it's between the two princes, so there's like a Fae prince and a human prince. I think I was definitely rooting for the main relationship, actually, until the end. And yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but at the end things just got very interesting, and I kind of live for the toxic drama, so I kind of want to know. I also really enjoyed the Fae Queen. She's kind of the villain, but I loved her energy. I just love an evil MILF. So I really enjoyed her as a villain of the book. And again, with the ending is one of my kind of favourite tropes, where the villain in the first book in a fantasy series actually turns out to kind of be holding back a bigger evil type vibe, like what you get in Mistborn. So yeah, I enjoyed that as well. It was just a really fun time. I would say if you like romantasy and YA romantasy, you can't go wrong with this book. And it was a perfect holiday read. I really want to read the sequel. I think there was a plot twist at the end of this book, which I kind of saw coming, but I think it was done very well. I think it was, and it's going to make book 2 really interesting. I feel like sometimes plot twists are kind of done for the sake of plot twists, but this one actually felt quite intentional. So yeah, I'm excited to read book 2. So that's that one. Okay, so then we have the Ministry of Time. Oh, is it gonna show up? The Ministry of Time by Kaylee and Bradley. This is definitely, it always does this. My Kindle doesn't like me tapping because it wants to change it. is its own thing. I guess you could call it a speculative thriller. Maybe. I really enjoyed this. It did take me a while to read, because I kept kind of putting it down and then reading other things. But what did I give it? 4 stars. Yeah, 4 stars. 4 stars. And we follow the main character, whose name I actually can't really remember. I feel like a name rarely gets used in the book because it's first person, so and she is part of the civil service, and she gets recruited to this special branch called the Ministry of Time, where they have extracted some people from throughout history and brought them into the present, so kind of time travelling, but they've just rescued people who were kind of about to die and brought them into the present to see if they can assimilate them into society. And the main character's role is to take one of these people and kind of look after them. And her assigned person is this polar explorer from the 1800s called Graham Gore, who I think was actually a real person. fiction aspects. So yeah, that's that one. Okay, then I'm gonna stay tapping on my Kindle. I read The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden on audiobook, which I gave 4.75 stars. Very close to a 5-star. However, I know this is comparing the author to herself, but I didn't love it quite as much as Warm Hearts of Ghosts. However, I did really love it. So this book we're following, this one again is kind of historical fiction with fantastical elements, is how I would describe it. We're following Anne of Brittany, who has inherited the dukedom of Brittany from her father, and it's at the cusp of when France invade Brittany or absorb Brittany into themselves. So at the time, Brittany is kind of a separate nation. Brittany is a separate, and it's around the 1400s, I would say. It's also kind of the cusp between the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, so it's just a really interesting time period. And Anne of Brittany was a real person, but this story kind of follows what might have happened had she had access to a magical forest. So basically, France want to marry her to their king. But she doesn't want to, and her father didn't want her to, and so she's trying to avoid this. So she kind of comes up with her own scheme to marry the King of Austria instead. But he can't be there in person, so she has to kind of delay France, basically. And she distracts them by saying, let's go on a unicorn hunt in this Broceliande, which is a magical forest. And then she kind of comes into contact with the unicorn, and then they discover these lost lands and these Corrigan people who are fae, I would say, and then the Corriganet king wants to also marry her. So it's basically her trying to fend off France and not get roped into a marriage that she doesn't want. And it's also her family, like her brother and her sister are there. Her sister's younger. I loved both of those characters. Then this handsome knight, who I think is also a duke, turns up. And she kind of has a romance with him. But I loved Anne as a character. She is such a hero, I guess. She's just really kind and intelligent, and she is definitely portrayed as not flawless, but almost flawless by the narrative, which I guess could be a negative, but I kind of liked it. She's kind of strong-willed, and was a cool setting as well. We used to go to Brittany quite a lot when I was younger. To campsites on holiday. So yeah, I love that area of France. And yeah, it was just really good. It had the right balance, I think, of historical and fantasy. It's definitely not if you're reading expecting a fantasy book, it's not really. There's quite major fantastical elements, but it definitely reads more as historical fiction. But yeah, like I say, a magical forest. Oh, I love the unicorns. I know the title says hunters, but they don't really hunt the unicorns. The unicorns are heralded as sacred in the book. Yeah, it was just really good. Catherine Arden's writing as well is amazing. I love it so much. She's definitely an author by author for me. All of her books I've given, I think, at least 4.5 stars. They're so good. Yeah, so love that. And then I also read the Unabridged Diaries of Emma M. Lyon, Volume 1, which I gave 4 stars. 4 stars. This is really fun. It's very short. I read it on audiobook. And it is this diva in Regency England in London. Just her adventures. It's kind of like Bridget Jones in the 19th century. Yeah, it's really fun. It's just a girl in a relationship and family dramas. It's written like a diary. She's very sassy and quick-witted in her writing, but kind of a mess in real life. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna carry on the series. I think I'll probably end up reading quite a few in August, so I will have more thoughts then. But I really enjoyed Volume 1, and I can't wait to get more engrossed into the series. That is just like pure historical fiction. There's no fantasy. But yeah. So yeah. And then we have Splasher by Billy Yost, which I gave 4.5 stars. And this was so much fun. This is a slasher horror with some paranormal elements, but it is so fun and campy and just silly, but it has a lot of heart to it as well. It follows basically the swim team, and at the start of the year there's 2 bodies found dead in the pool, and we're following one of the assistant coaches, who is the main character, and he's just come back to the job after, he's come to the job, but he was on the school swim team 10 years ago, and there was a death then, so it's all a bit like, ooh, the past's repeating. And then spooky things start happening to the swim team, and there's more deaths, and it's all just escalating. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's very, very readable, very well paced. I loved the main character, Spencer. I loved all the other characters, like the side character, then I guess the swim team characters. It really captured well, I think, that sort of uncertainty of being at university and not quite knowing your place in the world and having to go through something traumatic. And then also the coaches who are just like around 30, I would say, and they're kind of just trying to do their best for these teenagers that they're meant to be looking after, also fun. It's set in the early 2000s, so it's very Y2K energy. Obviously I love swimming, so I loved the swimming elements of this. I think probably you wouldn't love this as much if you weren't a swimmer, but I still think it's a good read. But there's definitely a lot of swimming. But I also think a pool is a great setting for a horror. I don't know. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this. I don't think it's doing anything groundbreaking, but it was loads of fun, and the characters all had so much heart, and there's a real kind of, even though it's horror, it had a real heartwarming energy to it. I don't know, I just love it, yeah, so I really enjoyed that one. Okay, then we have Heartstopper Volume 6, which is the final Heartstopper book, graphic novel. I have been reading Heartstopper since I was quite young. Well, since I was a teenager, I guess, when it used to come out on Tumblr. So I do feel like I've slightly outgrown it now. Like I probably wouldn't start it now, but because I've loved it for so long, I obviously had to finish it. However, I do feel like I maybe didn't read volume 5 because felt like there were gaps in my knowledge and memory of things that had happened, and I was like, I don't think I've ever read about this. So I think maybe I have not read volume 5, but I really enjoyed volume 6. I thought it was a great ending. Very Nick and Charlie. Heartstopper was very cutesy. But it has some good, I think, themes that, especially for teenagers, explore some things that they're uncertain about and seem like very big events in lives, and this book is a lot about that kind of pre-going to uni anxiety, uncertainties about relationships, finding your kind of communication styles, being drunk and silly. I don't know, it's really, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great ending. The right balance of kind of nostalgia to the earlier volumes, but still maintaining its own identity as the characters are older now, and I feel like it's kind of grown up with them, which is really cute. I need to watch the TV show. I have watched this first season, but I haven't watched the rest. But yeah, I love the art style. It's really cute. So I gave it 5 stars. 5 stars, 5 stars, because it's the nostalgia. It gets you. And it's really cute, and it just heartwarming. Yeah. So yeah. That's that one. And then the last book is Paladins by D. Kingfisher. This book is a romantasy, but I feel like D. Kingfisher writes romantasy that's different from your typical romantasy that you get. It's much more gothic, help of these two bodyguards, one of whom is Sean. And then they're off to investigate something. There's something going on with, I think it's salt, and there's this device that's been invented that's going to make it easy to produce salt, but then the salt merchants aren't happy about this, so they're trying to stop it, but then they're going about it in a malicious way. So Margaret, the main character, and Sean and the other bodyguard called Ren are going to try and basically save the life of the person who invented the salt machine, because the evil merchant groups are trying to target them. So yeah, that's basically the plot of the story. I really liked all the characters. I liked Margaret, she's great. I love a spy character. I like Sean, he is very repressed, but very kind. And I liked Ren, the other bodyguard knight, she was great. And there was another character, I think it was called David. He was another kind of spy-like character, but I loved him. He added so much to this book, I thought. I love the characters. I love the plot. It was very interesting. The only thing I didn't really care for that much was the romance. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't a giggle, kick your feet. I don't know, I just didn't really feel it that much. It felt not forced exactly, but I didn't really feel the chemistry too much. And if the book hadn't had the romance, I still would have really enjoyed it. Yeah, and the fact that it's meant to be a romantasy, I think probably that made me like it a bit less. I still gave it 4 stars, but it was just kind of disappointing not to like the romance, because in the other books in the series I loved the romance. Then this one, it just felt a bit unnatural in a way. It was like, it's the two main characters, so they have to get together. Yeah. But all the other aspects of the book I loved. So yeah, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments what your favourite read was in July. I would love to know. And I hope that I've stayed